I've talked to those on several occasions. They have not built out rural areas. They have some band 14 on 29 and surrounding cities, but they have not gotten out of that neck of the woods. Obviously, there's nothing there right now, right? You go up 231 in Sturville, you have a couple silo towers, things of that nature, but nothing of real substance to put out the city. The reason we're building this tower, again, is for first responders and so our responders can communicate when they have to go put out fires. I personally can tell you we had a fire a week and a half ago in the Nethers area where we had no mobile coverage at all. We had to go back to the trucks to use the regular system. So the north and south, what we're talking about now, we started looking at that in March of 2020, right after we signed the contract. We had looked at the Delaney Mountain Ridge line that spans from Duet Road all the way to the Edlin area. I'll go into all of them first. We looked at that, Leathers Lane area, the Banco area, and the Hughes River area. The Delaney site was ultimately dismissed because there was really no scenario that we could see that would not allow us to have to build a very lengthy road and very heavy terrain. And roads are not cheap to build. As we found out with Hughes River, which I'll get into in a minute, the logging road wouldn't work for us. The Leathers Lane site was dismissed because of land acquisition concerns and coverage issues being ORAG directly in between the upper Nethers area and the towers. The Banco site, same thing, we had coverage issues there. The Hughes River site was ultimately decided to want to be a very good site. For multiple reasons, it had existing logging road, it was also a good access road. The tower was tucked out of the way where we would be out of people's vision. The coverage offer was in line of sight with what was expected. Line of sight, we have to have microwave from the tower site back to Blaken to be able to get to the corridor of the ridge. We have to have that line of sight. Beyond that, the line of sight coverage can penetrate some terrain. The Hughes River site was on track and was approved by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in the joint meeting. We were on pace to construct. Once engineering began, we quickly realized that the logging road and access would not be what it would need to be for multiple different reasons. But it also, the biggest thing was soil erosion. Can't hear it. I'm sorry.
It's not on.
Better.
It's making noise.
It's not on.
Who?
I mean, up next.
Hello?
Better? Okay. All right, so the road that was, when we started looking at engineering, it was quickly realized that the logging road as an access road would not be sufficient to handle construction or soil erosion. Soil erosion being the biggest one. When EPA and DEQ got involved, we noticed there was a lot of water management in this thing that did not work. And that's when the road got really, really costly.
It says stop recording.
We asked Motorola in the summer of 22 to look at several different options. They came back with concrete aggregate, pavement, and plain gravel. The best case scenario that we looked at was $1.72 million for the road and the site work. This was $1.1 million increase from our original budget. We deemed that number fiscally irresponsible, and we knew we had to do something. We began looking at alternative sites in the late summer of 22 and ultimately saw two that we had potential with. One, that both had coverage and backhaul requirements needed. The first site that we looked at would have a roughly 3,000-foot road. Now, albeit it was on flat ground, it did cross two waterways in a swampy area. We knew there would be definite financial strings with that. The second one, the one we're looking at now, was roughly a 125-foot long road off an existing driveway. We reached out to the owner in January of 23 and entered into a lease with that landowner in January of 23, excuse me. So where are we now? We're currently in the zoning phase, very early in the zoning phase. The zoning application we predicted to be ready by April 19th workshop meeting, and the balloon test and advertisements will be in the Eagle on the 16th of this month, this Thursday, and next, the 23rd. And that will also include the online posting. We will also, per the ordinance, mail out letters to all adjacent property owners of the proposed site with at least 14 days notice. The balloon test itself will be flown on March 14th, and the weather dates will be the 15th and 16th. The balloon will fly 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on that date. What the balloon test does is they'll fly a 3-foot diameter big orange balloon. And then they'll take pictures from certain vantage points and then lay a tower on top of that balloon to show exactly what it will look like from certain vantage points. And we can have as many vantage points as we need. If we want to take 30 or 40 up there, then we can generate 30 or 40 pictures. Those photos will be presented at the April 19th workshop, and then ultimately on the May 3rd joint meeting between the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors, and that will consist of a public hearing and possibly action by the board. So that's kind of where we are now, and I'm certainly here to answer any questions that anybody has.
Okay, does anyone on the commission have a question for? No question, yes.
Where the tower actually going to be, is it cleared ground or it's going to be in a wooded?
It's going to be in a wooded area, and we're going to take down as few trees as possible to be able to put that in.
Okay, any other questions?
So is there already road up to this that you're gonna have to go through all this road stuff?
There's a current driveway into it, and we're going to utilize the current driveway and then cut in about 125 feet to the left of that driveway to access.
What was your problem with Delaney Mountain site?
Please, we will have public comments when the planning commission is finished. Thank you. Faye, did you have a question?
We own Delaney Mountain.
Please, we will have public comment and questions after the planning commission has completed. Thank you.
May I ask him something I just couldn't hear before he got his microphone?
Yeah, we will have public comment. Thank you.
That's not a comment.
Well, or question.
I just couldn't hear.
Okay.
Is that all right to ask him? Sir, did you say adjacent property owners would be notified by mail?
Yes, ma'am.
So adjacent to the property, is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Faye, did you?
Yes, well, just very simply, most of us on the planning commission at least have heard, the reason why we're doing this, as you just went through again for us, and where we are now, and how essential this is, and how I just think maybe emphasizing a little bit more why you have to have it. You have to have a site there. I heard you say it, but could you go over that one more time?
Yeah.
Why do you have to have a site in that area of the county?
We have to have coverage. Terrain in Madison County, as everybody knows, for the very reason everybody loves Madison County, there's mountains everywhere. Well, our signals, VHF, will not travel through mountains very easily, so we have to get around them. And a tower site in the north end gets us around on the backside of where Etland Road is. It gets us on the backside of where Whippoorwill Road is. And it enables us to tie into coverage that are existing from Hoover Ridge, Blakey, and the Beautiful Run site.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Have you increased your budget? You said you were over your budget with the other road. Have you increased the budget or anything?
We are still getting budgetary numbers back for this Churchill site.
So we don't know.
We don't know what the exact number. The budgetary number is right at $800,000. So we are still, in a rising market. Obviously, those numbers were generated a while back.
Any other questions from the planning commission? If not that being the case, we will begin taking questions from the public or comments. Please limit yourself to no more than 3 minutes if you can. And when you come up, identify yourself and then give your comment or question. Yes, sir. Move up to it.
Yes, sir.
I'm Tommy Foster and my wife Terry. We live on Churchill Road, and we own that Delaney Mountain. Are you Brian?
Yes, sir.
And we decided this morning to save the community because a lot of people are upset that we would let you put it up on that mountain. And that road is not that difficult. The Aylers have already worked with it. And it rides the ridge the whole way down the mountain to Churchill Road. We don't want it up there, but we'll do it. For the church, for the Aylers, for the Yows. It's a terrible spot right in the heart of Etland. It's such a treasure of a spot for the whole county, if not Virginia. And we'll let you put those tag on the cell companies if that's what you want to do. And I hope it's not too late, Brian, to come up there. You know, you and Cardi come up there, we'll ride up with the side by side, and if it works out for your site, maybe the tower wouldn't even have to be as tall. And I don't believe hardly anybody would notice it that it was up there. And we would do that. And I don't think that road would cost too much. EJ and Brent could do it. We've already started. There's one tough spot just before you get to the highway. Only have to put one 20-inch black culvert at one spot. It's just water runoff. There's no creeks on it. And the road would follow the ridge to where the water, you'd only need 21A packed on good and tight. I don't want it right on the tip of the mountain because I want to put a pavilion and maybe a guest cottage. But if it can go down a little over towards the property line, we're willing to do it. But this is the way we wanted to do it, if you would consider it. We want you to talk to Trindley and the Ehlers and the Yowes and Teddy Fry, Mark Fry, and all our neighbors, so we can talk about it as a community. Since we've been talking, we all just found out about this a week and a half ago. And y'all went and picked that spot, signed the contract. Why wouldn't you just get our opinions as a community? And you would think, whoa, this is not a very good spot. Here, in case y'all have lost track of the treasure you have in this county, please don't screw it up with the tower. It would be right by the church in those woods. It would be an awful idea. And up on Dulaney Mountain, I don't think the road will cost that much. You could talk to Brent. But this is what I want you to do. I want you to talk to all the neighbors and get their opinion. It couldn't take more than a day or two. You know, and I wouldn't be surprised if most of the community would be all right with it. And I had a lot more to say. I was winging it, you know, I didn't write any notes.
That's okay.
But I'll tell you a quick story if I can get through it. My son died 6.5 years ago. We're kind of newcomers, you know. And he was in the casket in Prince William County where we lived. And my niece's little girl, she was about 5. They didn't understand, and they told, the mother told her, they said, oh, Clarky, he's not here, you know, he's in heaven. And then we had the funeral at Etland Cemetery the next day. A lot of these sweet people came to support us. They didn't even know us. And Terry's daddy was preaching the funeral. And that little girl tugged on her mother's shirt and said, Mama, is this heaven? That's what you got in this county. I'm afraid that some people have lost sight of it. Please come talk to us. Let's ride up there. I hope it's not too late.
Here you go, sir.
Would you like your picture back, sir? Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
I don't need the mic, I can talk pretty loud.
Yeah, we record, so yes, please, yes.
Hello? 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 This one will work too.
Put that one up there, please.
This one works too.
Pass the mic around.
I'm
Yeah.
Karen Czar, and I live at 440 Churchill Road, which is, I live here, tower's gonna go here. I am totally for a tower, as everybody here is. We know we need it. Sharon hit a deer, she had to walk in the dark to somebody's house she didn't know and say, can you please call the cops, okay? Because there's no service out there. We know we need it. That poor lady that drowned over there at Graves, we need the tower. We're just asking you not to put it in that location. Tom here has, and Terry have offered generously for you to take a look at their property. Can we give that a try? We're just asking, okay? We just don't like the site. I'm from Jersey. This is heaven on earth to me. I cannot wait to retire and just drink my coffee on the ridge. It is so, so beautiful. So that's all we're asking. We need the tower. Yes, we know we need the tower, and we totally support building one. It's just that location. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
I didn't know I'd have to get out. I'm Albert Gal from Etlin, Albert of Etlin. I'm in support of Tommy Foster here, what a fine gentleman, and Terry Ark. Okay, like she said, we need cell service. We're more interested in cell service than this emergency stuff. So, 3 questions. I don't get the same answer twice. How long will it take to get cell service once the tower is up?
That question is one for the cell companies. We are definitely going to build it to handle it, and we definitely want it. But if the Verizon's, AT&T's of the world won't commit to it, we can't make it.
Well, wouldn't revenue from that sort of contract help your budget?
It certainly will.
All right, second question. I don't get the same answer twice. Does it have to have line of sight with Blakey Ridge?
Yes, it does.
No interference?
No interference.
All right, I've heard twice on that. Third question. If Elon Musk gets all his satellites up there, will that make this obsolete?
It will not make LMR obsolete as he has it right now. He's partnering with T-Mobile for cell phone services. That will potentially make the cell phone towers obsolete, but it's not for LMR at this point.
I guess I have a fourth question. On the, you call it the Hughes River site, which is Mitchell Mountain,
Yes.
was that, I didn't see the balloon, was that gonna top the ridge?
No, it was not.
Why not?
Because the property triangulated, and to keep it out of the fall path, we need to bring it down the ridge.
Well, see, that wouldn't have helped that side of the community if cell towers were added to it. Otherwise, that was a good location. We like that location.
We did too.
All right. So, I don't like this location. We've got a 90-foot harbor store. That would be a good location, and has line of sight of Blakey Ridge. So, we'll talk to you. Okay?
Thank you. Other public comment?
Our store too low. You got the older brother, now you get the youngest. Ralph Yao, also veteran. If you remember the overlay you had up here a few minutes ago that showed the, I guess it was the GIS site, it showed all the properties around there. That is by far the densest place on our end of the county, pretty much, outside of maybe Nethers, to be able to put a tower. I know that there are probably concerns from some people about thoughts of some kind of emissions coming from these. I don't know anything about it, but I know that is a concern. I don't think that makes, that alone makes it an unlikely site, in my opinion. I do have a couple of questions concerning the other site. How much have you all already invested in that proposed site?
The Churchill site?
No, that Hughes River.
We invested a good chunk of engineering into that site.
How much money?
I'd have to go back and figure.
$300,000.
Yeah, I think it's.
They spent $300,000 already on a site. Now they're gonna abandon it. All because EPA or DEQ has to stick their nose in and engineer something far more than what they need. Way more than what they need. Because how many times does the pickup have to go up there?
Once it's built, not many.
Not many. Once or twice a year. 4-wheel drive truck needs a pick path to get up there. That's what we need. So go back, look at that site, cut it down 75%. Put the bid out there, tell them you don't need all this crisscrossing across the gorge. You make a straight site. And they were out there putting flags around a creek that's a mile away from the site and uphill, over 2 hills. Where is the erosion concern there? They don't know what the hell they're doing. They never do. Do they know what they're doing out in Ohio right now? Hell no. So why don't we tell DEQ and EPA, this is a county thing, we're gonna do it, and we're gonna do it our way. Have a damn backbone.
Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Emily Au. My question is, you said this is for emergency services in Etlin. I want to know how much faster emergency services can get to Etlin with this tower.
The tower itself is not going to increase response time. It's going to increase our ability to talk on the way there and while we're there.
And how does that, you said that you could go to your truck and call back to whoever.
If we're in a current situation, correct.
So how is if you can use your radios, then why do we need the tower?
Because they have handhelds, and if they've got to walk back to the truck, it does slow down things. And in most cases, it's not that big a deal. But in a life or death situation, it could be. And that's what we're trying to make this system where it does what we want it to do. And keep everybody as safe as we can, including our responders.
Thank you. Other public comment? Yes, sir.
I'm Paul Coates from up at the Etlin area, been there for 85 years. Remember the days when I was young, 7, 8 years old, go to the country store on a Saturday night, that's the only chance you had to go anywhere. Everybody came there, 20 kids, 25 kids, all running around playing hide go seek. My favorite thing to do was to sit on the porch and listen to the 80-year-old men talk. Now they had lived there for 80. I've been there for 85. So you're looking at close to 200 years. Etlin has not changed. It's the same. I mowed that cemetery for 50 years now, and we did it around the 70s. I hope that it wasn't around the 50, but I doubt this going to work. But anyway, why, all that area, we got in that area that we want a tower in our back door of the church and across the road from the cemetery. When you come to the cemetery, our cemetery is probably, taking away Lutheran Church Cemetery, probably one of the biggest in Madison. And we're growing with leaps and bounds. They're coming in from Northern Virginia. They want to get buried where they can see the old grave. And I'm telling you the truth, it's a beautiful location. Now, I don't understand why we're going to get a tower down in a hollow. And I'm not beating up on Brian, he's done a great job. The place he found over behind Buchan's property, as he can tell you, is excellent. And I agree with you guys, I want to go back there. You're going to be able to get everything. You're going to be able to go up in the Nether's Hollow. You're going to be able to go down Whippoorwill Road. You're going to be over Hazel River Road. Everything. It's beautiful up there. Now, why would you come back to our church and our cemetery and put a tower down in the hollow? You know, I go to Charlottesville twice every day and back, and I see these towers. And the one I really noticed is at Jim Carpenter's old place where he owned out there. Most of you know that. It's south of Shelby. This tower is a monster. And when you look at the top of it, it looked like a jet landed right up on top of it. Now, do we need this thing next to our church or next to our cemetery? I had a friend work at VDOT, and I found out in VDOT, we'd go out and we'd find a place to build what we thought was a good place to build a road. We did the testing, we did everything. We go back later, they didn't build a road there. They built the road over there. You know why? The local people got into it. When you go down to Road 3, Stevensburg, you know, the lanes are running together down there. Well, guess what? I spent 6 months because they wanted to take the road at the rock area and go over in the farmland and come all the way around and then come back in down there. And guess what happened? The people at Stevensburg said, no, you're not going to do that. You're going to come down through our town. The same thing happened in Spurville. They wanted to bypass Spurville. But the people in the neighborhood said, no, we want that road coming through here. This looks just to look better for Spurville to have that road done. And that's exactly what you did. You guys went over to Crigglesville, and you did a great job. And we had people coming in, wanted to do this and wanted to do that. Crigglesville said, no, we don't want you in here. We want to stay like we are. And y'all did a great job. You left them like they are. And we're expecting the same thing at Etna. We want that community to look like it did. I don't want to go to church on a Sunday morning and see a 160-foot tab right at that back door. Well, I have a son that buried in the Etna Cemetery 2 years ago. And I hate to come in that road there and all down in the dumps, you've lost your son. And here, and what we're looking at, here's this tab sitting over here, looks like a jet plane landed on top. That's not necessary. You don't have to do that. Listen to the people. Now, Brian here, I'll give him a lot of credit. He did a good job. He found that first place, and that's probably the best place in Madison County. There's nothing behind it but a mountain. You can look down Whippoorwill Road, you can look down Hazel River Road, you can look up in the hollow and nose. I don't see how in the world that this tab put at our church is going to be able to do that. It's down in the hollow. I know it's going to be high. It's going to be, what, 170 feet? Does that make sense? This tower used to be maybe 60 feet. We have a lot of winds in Madison now. The property over on Hazel River, they'll have probably a couple dozen. Their favorite place to take a picture is along that road and shoot to the old Rag Mountain. Well, guess what? If this tower goes there, guess what they see? They see the tower. I had a friend, VDOT, and he was a geologist. He traveled all over the world. And it was my determination to take him up to our cemetery one day, and I did. And he said, I've never seen a more pretty place. Now, I've got a couple of people tonight who like to speak about this, about the cemetery and the church. The Ellen Church, 2 years ago, we were lucky to get 2 dozen people. They did those. That was good. Those were the people that we knew, they were associated. We got into it, and we taught this from the United Methodists. And how the United Methodists got it, I don't know. This happened back in the early century. But the land was given, as part of this land where they want this town, was given by this lady. The men in Elton built the church. They owned, the United Methodists owned the church. And thanks to some of our people, we bought the church back. And it's a community church now. It's a food bank now. And it's nothing unusual for us to get 100 people on a Sunday morning. And why do we want to come into this area and deal with this unsightly looking thing? And like I tell you, if you go to Charlottesville, always take a look to your left at Jim Carter's place. And look at that tower sitting there. And is that what we want to look at every Sunday morning? And I thank Brian for what he done. He did a great job. He does a good job for these folks. Nothing has been so good. I've been in the Madison Volunteer Rescue Squad 58 years. It started, and it got to the point that we needed to cater to the people up in Nevis because it was getting a lot of people. So I formed a satellite unit up there. We had 2 units from Madison. We stayed up there 20 years. And it didn't bother me because I ran 58 years rescue squad in Madison. And this is what comes out, this is some of the stuff that comes out of the area. Madison County has that pretty area up there. And I would say this is pretty in the world. And like my wife would tell you, on the computer, they had this thing about the prettiest height in the world. We had 25 places that they would have this. Guess where the old rag came in? Number 10. We got a jewel up there. So don't come up there and mess it up. I'm 85, and let's hope that the next guy that sits on the porch and listens up there, and he lives as long as I do, and instead of being 200 years, let's make 300 years. And that one, I guarantee you, will stay the same unless we have other people to come in there and change things that we don't want. And I appreciate what Brian's done, and he's done a great job. And we don't want to beat up on Brian. He's doing his job, and I was in EMS service too for a long everything. But I don't understand how this tower at our church, and I hope you people come up and look at it, never been up there. How's this town going to get up around the Ag Mountain up in Dallas? I don't know, he knows, and they know. I'm not authority on that. But I wonder about that. And there's plenty of land up there. We just heard Mr. Foster talk. That he's willing to give a spot up on the mountain again to have the tower. Now, when we want a tower put up there that you go up in the nethers and you still can't get communication, I'd like to yield to Trinity. Would you like to?
Thank you, sir. Yes.
Would you like to come up? Would you like to say something?
We will take people as they come up. Yes, please have a seat now. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Please have a seat now. Thank you, sir. And again, if you would try to keep your comments to maybe 3 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Trinley Wood. I live on Churchill Road in Etling, and I have for almost 40 years. And my family came here specifically because of the beauty of Old Rag. Because as a child, I'm from Crozet, as a child, we would come up 231 to go to Winchester back and forth, and I knew it. I knew it for a long time. This is where I wanted to be, and this is where my kids went to school, and it's heaven on earth. It is a beautiful community, and the location is really the only downside of this tower. I don't think anyone is opposed to the need for emergency services. Well, maybe not fully in favor, but most of us totally support the need for emergency services to have better communication. And we also want improved self-service. It's just basic. That's where we need to go. The location is not wise, though. It's not suitable. And I invite any of you guys who want to come out. We would love to show you, what it looks like from our side of the road. I'm about 2.5–3 of a mile further east on Churchill Road from the proposed location. I can see it from my living room, from my front door. It would just be awful. And the fact that it's having to be lit because it's so high. It's not?
No.
Anything under 199 does not have lit. It's not gonna have lit.
Well, I appreciate that.
And that was one of the specifications we mandated, it had to be under 199, so it didn't
Thank you for that. I have one question, another question. In the contract with Motorola, is there a provision for deconstructing the tower when it is no longer needed?
That would be on us and the county. If
And-
it came to that point, we would have to deconstruct.
And have you known that ever to happen?
No.
A tower that's been put up has never been taken down that
I'm
you're
sure
aware
that-
of?
I'm not aware of. Standard reason, somebody puts up, at some point it's going to come down.
So the cost would be incurred by the county? I see.
So we actually got that one.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other public comment?
I'll just do a minute. Back in the 80s, we had Motorola walkie-talkies that went through Fork Mountain, so anywhere in the county we were farming. Does it have to be Blakey Ridge? Why can't it be Fork Mountain Tower?
We actually looked at Fort Mountain very early on. The Virginia State Police has a tremendous number of VHF pairs on that mountain. It creates a bunch of interference. My predecessor radar actually looked at that back in 2009.
Okay, so that's been looked at. But since they mentioned Old Rag, and everybody here wants a tower, you'll get your tower. We'll just put it somewhere else. That's it. We'll get it. We want it. During the 18 months from when COVID started and I quit flying private jets, I hit all 50 states. Nowhere did I not have cell service on my AT&T phone or on my Verizon phone. I come back to Edlin, no cell service. So, you need cell service. We're more interested in that than your emergency services, but I guess that's okay too. And I can tell you for a fact, since it came up, Rag at Edlin is the best view east of Guadalupe Peak in Texas. That includes the Georgia mountains, the Smokies, the Alleghenies in Pennsylvania, the Catskills, the Adirondacks, and Maine. Edlin tops them off.
Thank you.
Mark?
How you doing? My name is Mark Fry, and that's my family over there, my brother. My family's been living in Etland since 1863. Where they putting the tower at is directly in line with the site. I mean, where we gonna have a house built, that we had one that burned down, but we're gonna have a house built and looking straight at O'Reg. It's the most beautiful sight that I've seen in my life. And I've been around the world 3 times. All right, it's the Grand Canyon has nothing on it. All right, anything you see in Hawaii, the Cliff Divers has nothing on this. All right, this is like heaven. My grandfather lived there all his life. Had family members pass away in New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas. He never left. He was so in love with where he lived at and the site around him, he never left. For anything. And you know, when you have family members, brothers and sisters, nieces, nephews, cousins pass away, and that's an important family event. And you've forsaken that just for the sight that he saw from his house, looking at the mountain. And to put a tower there and to block that view, and everyone knows that O'Reg Mountain is basically the #1 hiking place on the East Coast. The #1. And people gonna ride down Hughes River Road, travelers, and they're gonna look at O'Reg Mountain and they're gonna see the tower. And, you know, to the best of my knowledge, there's other places that tower could be. You have the same effect that you're trying to get with your emergency services. Did y'all check out any other spots on Hughes River Road or Whippoorwill Road?
Whippoorwill Road, the only way to get back to Blakey is to get up on top of Delaney Ridge Line. It runs that way. We looked at several places on the Duet side, and where the Ragged Rock LLC is, we looked at that, and the landlord told us no. But on the backside of Mitchell Mountain, no. So that Hughes River spot down low, make sure we can get around Delaney Mountain.
Okay, how about any sites across from Shannon Lewis Community Campsite?
Well, that backs up on the Delaney side and the Duet side. So up on that ridge line, yes, he did. That was very early on.
I would encourage you to take another look. 473 Hughes River, Whippoorwill Road.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good evening. My name is James Fry II, the nephew of Teddy MacArthur Fry. I've been going to Etland for 65 years. In the fall, that is one of the beautiful sights. You can see the different colors of the leaves. It's like God's country, different. I'm just like my brother. I did 22 and a half years in the military, and I've seen mountains in Colorado, but nothing like O'Reg. I had a house built in Colorado Springs, looking at Pikes Peak, for that reason, because I like the mountains. I like the view. On the construction side, Brian mentioned about erosion control, DPU. Well, I worked for a construction company for 23 years at one. EPA maybe challenge you a different way, but if you change your plans where you don't have to cross over all those creeks and move the road differently, it'll probably be cheaper. And the only reason why it's high is because you want those, that where you're building the road, it's called CPR 30. CR30 is concrete mixed with rock. That'll help to get your compact. But if you move the road, I don't know how far you need to move it up, but you don't have to cross both of those creeks. That would definitely cut your cost. Lowering your tower would definitely cut your cost. But the space that you want to put it at now, as you say, the Yals, Ellis, we really don't want it there. I mean, it's just so high. So please take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment?
How you doing, guys? My name is Brian Linhoff, and I live on the border of Etlin and Syria. You want to put the tower in my front yard? More than happy to put it there. But I have questions, I really don't have comments. Who's your tower carrier builder?
Motorola does all the subcontracting. ACI is the one that does, right now is what we're doing with the subcontract.
So you really don't know who your tower builder is?
KCI.
KCI. Never heard of them. So normally when a cell tower is built, the builder of the tower solicits the carriers to come on the tower, and that will facilitate.
We are the builder of the tower. We're a subcontract through Motorola. So if that comes to fruition, then we will be the ones to say, yes, we will the cell carrier.
So are you owning the property or leasing the property? So you're basically going into a lease contract like a cellular carrier?
Correct.
Cellular tower builder?
Correct.
Okay. So that's why there will be no cell service on that tower unless they get wind of it. Because normally a cellular carrier builder like Milestone and the others, they solicit it because they want the additional revenue. So that was I guess, a fault in the way that you negotiated the contract. Who is the Motorola circuit provider?
As far as the
Giving you your bandwidth, your continuity back to the 911 center for your radio tower.
It's all transmitted microwave back to a core, and we have a fiber line coming back into that, but it's all contracted out by Motorola.
So you're doing a microwave, you're not doing a fiber-based network?
The microwave on the towers, we're doing fiber based from the main tower out of Hoover Ridge back to our ECC. But everything else is connected through microwave on the loop.
So Hoover Ridge is your hub?
Correct.
So that, basically, you're not going to have fiber there, so the carriers can come and get cell service on that tower?
Well, we've actually already run a fiber line to them.
From where?
From the ECC. It's committed fiber, but it is fiber.
But it's personal owned, and any of the carriers will not use it, and they can use that for cellular service?
Correct.
Are you guys going to have a alternate or a secondary E911 center in the county?
Not planned at this time,
Why is that?
because we don't have infrastructure.
You own a building in Curtisville that would be a good place for that.
Okay.
Have you ever thought about that?
I've definitely thought about a redundant center, I've never talked about it.
Because the building's there, it would be a simple retrofit. You put the E911 center on the top floor, the secondary. And I remember one of the other heated discussions about that building, that one of the board members suggested that. And I think you should really think about that. And if we ever get a VATI grant, you will have fiber all through the network that you want to pay for. And if you do have emergency service, you will have fiber connectivity to that site. And just as a side note, Verizon has a central office right next door. And it would not really hurt anything, and the tower could or could not be put up there. But think about that, because Verizon has a site that's right there, and it would basically be no special construction for you to retrofit that and have that as the ultimate emergency site. Okay, you've answered my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other public comment?
My name is Ann Coates. I do not live in Etlin. I live in Banco, but my church is Etlin. And we all know we need cell service. We've never had cell service, have a cell phone just for travel. But it's well-known in that area of Ricklettsville and Banco and others that we need cell service. But I found some interesting things as I was looking for information on Rag Mountain. And according to National Geographic, from the summit, you get a sweeping view of the range, ridge after ridge, for 100 miles in every direction on a clear day. And another site I found was outsideonline.com, reports that of the 25 best hikes in the world, Rag Mountain is rated number 10, which I think is amazing in the world. We probably have many more than that in the county and the state. ORAG has been photographed and painted by numerous artists. I know that for years I begged Lou Mesa to paint Rag Mountain. He would never do it. So I took him a group of photographs, and he finally did some paintings that became his #1 sellers. You can see them at Piedmont Deli. Many high school students come to the Whippoorwill Road and Hughes River Roads to have their graduation pictures taken with Rag Mountain as a backdrop. It's beautiful. And if you put a tower there, it would be right in the middle of their photograph. So that is not desirable. Where does a cell tower fit into this picture? The simple answer is it doesn't. It just doesn't in that area. Thousands come to Nethers every week to experience the beauty and the physical challenge of hiking to the summit of Rag Mountain. Can you imagine their shock and disappointment when they reach the top to photograph the beautiful community and farmlands below, only to have a 160-foot tower staring back at them in their picture? We just are not, we're not in favor of that. So please consider not only the residents of Etland, but also the many thousands that come to experience this extraordinary mountain for hiking and photographing. Thank you for your help.
Thank you, ma'am. Other public comment? Any other public comment? Okay, thank you. And thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the plans here, you've got a 1,000-gallon LP tank that runs the generator, I assume.
Yes, sir.
And you've got, apparently, you need other electricity. I mean, this is just a receiver, and it's a transmitter as well.
Correct. Yes, sir.
So that's what you need, electricity, just for
Yeah, you have to put
transmitting.
an AC service into it, the generator's there for backup when the power goes out.
So when you talk about this other road that was going up, that I heard about a pickup truck going up once or twice a year, you really have to get an LP truck up there to fuel the generator when the generator's low.
That all depends on how much power goes out.
Sure. It depends on how much the generator.
Exactly.
But you do have to have a road to accommodate some kind of a service truck of that nature.
Right.
Okay. That's all.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? Okay, one last time, any other public comment? All right, thank you all.
Steve, I got a comment to make maybe.
Yes.
And I don't know that this is the right spot for this cell tower, but what I do know is that if you've ever had somebody hurt and tried to get somebody to them, to help them, and you gotta run from the mountain back to the truck to talk to UVA, it's very, very important to have a tower. Of most safety, it's very, very important. And I understand everything you people are saying. And if that was my backyard, I wouldn't want it there either. But I also understand minutes save lives.
Thank you, Pete. Any other comment from the Planning Commission? All right, if not, let's proceed with our next case.
One back there, she has something else to say.
Yes, ma'am, if you would, I think that mic is working now. If you go ahead up there.
Regarding the balloon being put over a balloon test, you said 10 to 2 on one day.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it possible to have it over a weekend or sometime when people who work during the day, Monday to Friday? Can it be done at a time when more people can do it?
I will certainly check. I'll certainly check.
Thank you. All right, then let's proceed with the next case. This is case number S-03-23-01. Kenneth Lower Contracting LLC has applied for a by right subdivision of a 10.3 acre A1 agriculture zone parcel.
do you stick out LS? Where do you stick out?
Oh, I think he has to do it on at the end of that new, yeah.
That's what he gets. Well, sliding it in, right?
Yeah. All right, would you please exit orderly and quietly? We're in the middle of a meeting. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Fine if the one
All right, continuing. Agriculture zone parcel located on Meander Run Road, Route 631. The subdivision would create two new parcels containing 3 acres and 4.3 acres, and a residue parcel containing 3 acres. An existing single-family dwelling is located on the proposed residue parcel, and this dwelling is addressed as 2093 Meander Run Road, Locustdale, Virginia. The subject parcel has not been subdivided in the previous 10 years, and once recorded, future subdivision rights on each parcel would be exhausted. The parcel is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 51-45. Ligon?
Yeah, I think the only question that really came up from the last meeting was the existing home, which would be 3 acres. If that septic system, did anything special need to be done for health department? I talked to Emily Boydon, health department. She said as long as it works and the AOSE, the soil person, determines it's in functioning condition, which it appears to be, then there's nothing that they need. And she has everything on file and should get a letter by the 1st for the 2 new drain fields, but that was, I think, the only thing that was kind of a, and here, I put, there it is, and he has the actual original permit right here from 1957. But if it's maintained, and again, it doesn't seem to be failing, I mean, if it is, she just said, Emily said it could be changed, but that's up to the AOSC, and Ken said everything seems to be working fine, so.
And we'd already discussed the VDOT and the entrances and so forth at the last meeting.
That's right, and there's a correspondence from them, and they have recommended, Mr. Lohr met them out there, they recommended where the best entrances would be, so there's an old house there, and he's currently starting to rehab that, clean the property. It's a pretty property through there, really is. And you can see the pictures that I put in the packet. I wish I had a mouse, but I'm trying to.
Okay. Any questions from the Planning Commission for Ligon?
Why is it doing that? Shit.
Okay. Is the applicant present?
No, he wasn't going to be here, I know, for this meeting. He couldn't make it.
All right, and in that case, is there any public comment on this application? Okay, if there are no questions and no public comments, let's move on to case number SU-03-23-02. Mr. Simon Graff has applied for a special use permit to operate 3 short-term rental units on a parcel which he owns. The undeveloped parcel is 10.7 acres and is zoned A1, agriculture. And in this zoning district, more than 1 short-term rental unit on a single parcel requires a special use permit. Each short-term rental unit would contain roughly 1,700 square feet of interior floor space with 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. The subject parcel is located on Etland Road, Route 643, and is identified on Madison County's tax map as 25-5A. Ligon, any additional on that?
Mr. Graff is here. And he, in the packet, he answered some of the questions. I think the glare question was one, and it's non-glare. If you look at the packet, he did a nice job, I thought, of trying to answer some of those questions. The septic, he does have 3 approved drain fields. Here are the conditions. Please notice, it is a run with the land situation. It would be transferable. This is, when you're, a lot of times if you're borrowing money, this is something that, institutions like to see, that it would be transferable. We've done both with SUPs, but you can see I put 1,800 square feet as max. Sometimes I just put a little bit more just in case for some reason the plans come in a little larger, which don't expect that they will. You can see like Mr. Whitman over out in Wolftown on Graves Mill. He's no outdoor events, no amplified sound. And one of the concerns, if you look at the last one, it was just the site has been logged some, there's still a lot of trees on the site, and Mr. Graff told me, when it's springtime, you have leaves, it's not really visible, but he would submit a landscaping plan before a building permit's issued from a landscape or an arborist certified. And his intent is to, some of the areas that, trees have been taken down, is to sort of, build it back up and get it looking nice. Again, not that it looks bad, but it has been, some trees have been cut down, so he's totally okay, and we're willing to do that, to get a plan for kind of repopulating some of the trees and brush on the parcel. So those are the conditions in your packet. And you can see, and he can explain to VDOT's rationale for the 2 entrances. I think there's pretty good sight distance there. And he can answer any questions that you may have. Any other questions for me? I mean, obviously, it's 3 houses on a parcel is by right. He can do that. So really the question of the SUP is, can 2 of them be short-term rentals, short-term lodging units?
Anyone have a question before we leave? Yes, Mike.
Did you say the septic field has been approved to be in that location?
There are 3 septic fields. I think on the packet, I actually,
I don't see them
on the other, I believe I uploaded, maybe I didn't, but I do have those.
But they are approved?
Yes, they're all established. Everything is, am I correct? Everything's been filed. He has those.
And the only reason I was asking is because I know where it is, and I didn't know if they weren't going to be approved because they haven't done the testing, that you would have to move them, and then that would redo everything the way you've got it planned now. That's the only reason I was asking.
First one's been approved.
You want to get them, something you can just, he can talk to you about it.
Might as well.
I'm Simon Graff. Hello, can you hear me? Yeah. Simon Graff from Charlottesville, Virginia. I do apologize for missing the first meeting. I was away on honeymoon, and I was worried that my wife would leave me after 1 week if I came. So, great to meet you all today, and thank you for having me. I do have there, the previous owner had done had completed a construction permit, and he had a drain field, and then I went ahead and completed a second perk analysis where the second drain field was found, and then a reserve drain field was found as well. So there are 3 drain fields on the property, yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Patty?
Yes, not necessarily for the applicant, but mainly to get something in the record about, because a couple of different people have questioned me, just knowing the position I have about this, and I've assured them what I know about it, which is, when we are approving these A1 sites that come out of and they've been in land use, and now they won't be in land use. And I suppose Brian takes care of that, to assess?
That's right.
That's the way that works, right? Mm-hmm. So we need to make that official. We know that. We don't have to put it in the SUP. That is given. When it comes out of land use, they are assessed, whatever the payback fee is for the 5 years. correct?
That's totally correct, yeah.
Yes.
And I'm not sure, is this in land use? I don't think this is even in land use, this parcel.
I'm just saying if it is.
Yeah, sure, yeah,
If
he'll
it's
take
been in
that
land
out.
use, folks in the communities, I guess, are concerned we don't get our money back for what we have. And just make sure that's what we do.
Steve, I got a
Yes,
question.
Pete.
I got a question for Sean. Sean, in the years of Betty and Shaq, whenever we had a drawing like this and it had a existing entrance and a new entrance, they always shut down one of them. Is that something that has to be done or not?
That's really a VDOT question as to whether it needs to be shut down and it has to do with consecutive sightlines. I cannot speak to what the policy was, even if Shaq's office was 10 feet away from mine. It never came.
I just had to ask because I've seen it happen.
And it may be appropriate in some circumstances for the reason I mentioned. Remember one of the other things about sightlines, if you have somebody who's turning, and we all know this, we just haven't really thought about it. If there's somebody in front of you, you can't see through that person. And if there was another driveway right in front of that, impatient drivers occasionally will try to go around the person. That's where problems happen. That's probably the logic behind shutting down.
I'm satisfied with the answer. I just said that.
And one other thing I'd like to say about that, I'll just reiterate what we did at our last meeting a couple of weeks ago, that someone mentioned this, which I approve of and been talking about for a while. We have agencies that take care of these legal problems with Health Department, with VDOT. I'm willing, unless I see it's a major egregious problem with the mistakes they might have made, which I might not even know about, that we accept. If we have the approval and it's documented, I personally don't feel comfortable challenging it because I don't know anything about it. I have to depend on them. So if they say we don't need the extra, don't need to shut down the entrance, you don't have to do that, in my opinion. But I agree with what you're saying. We did that a lot.
Okay, any other question or? Okay, the one concern, I think, at the last meeting, there was some question about, this many on the 10 acres. But I noticed backing on this property, it looks like there's I don't know how many of those lots have homes on them, but there's a whole lot of built-up area behind that. So I don't think that's, we've got at least 3 acres for each unit. So that shouldn't be a problem here, I don't think. You are, I understand, planning on maintaining the trees, and hopefully these won't be that visible from the road, from what you're saying here. Yeah, okay.
Our purpose is kind of that they're invisible, they'll blend in
Yeah.
the natural surrounding.
Good.
There's been quite a job done on the property, so I have quite a bit of landscaping work to do.
Any other question or comment on this? Okay, if not, can we have public comment?
Yeah, I think we have.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Yablon, and for over 29 years, I've lived adjacent to the property that we're talking about. I wouldn't be here tonight if the issue was a special use permit for somebody who's going to actually live there, even somebody who's going to live there and rent out a property, but no one's going to live there. It's a business. It's 3 short-term rentals. Please ask yourself, would you like to live next to 3 short-term rental properties crammed together on 11 acres? The term special use permit presumes that you're going to have something that occurs rarely. It's a special use. I would think that all doubts would be resolved against a special use, especially if the neighbors are really upset. In this case, the benefit to the county is pretty minor. The benefit to the owner is great, and the benefit to the adjacent property owners, of which I am only one, is potentially quite severe. This should be called what it is. It's a high-density development and an ongoing business. Again, I'm just one of several people who are upset about this. I'm just the only one who could be here tonight, but others will be here at the next meeting. Granting the special use permit now has implications for the future, which is something I'm sure you spend a lot of time on because planning commissions think about the future. Perhaps in the relatively near future, the owners of the subject property might decide to discontinue the homes, or renting the homes, and decide that selling them individually is a better deal, or perhaps the only way to exit what could well be an unprofitable investment. And if things go poorly, the owners will claim severe hardship. If the decision to allow the special use, cramming together 3 rental properties to strangers with no supervision whatsoever, is really the decision in many ways to subdivide this into 3 parcels. And if you're not willing to make that decision now, you shouldn't go halfway and grant it, because that's where this is going. It might not be going there soon, but that's where it's going. My area has seen a drop in the water table over the past decade. My neighbors and I have experienced a significant reduction in water security during this time, including every one of the people adjoining this property. Increasing the density to fall to 4 lots, in other words, on the 2 properties, my property and the adjacent property, is going to greatly exacerbate the water problem. My property has an excellent, excellent deep well, but occasionally it runs dry. This is why I take short showers, and this is why I keep dozens of gallons of water on hand. 3 adjacent homes, each holding 4 people, each containing a kitchen and 2 bathrooms, is going to increase from 2 to 14 the number of people drawing water on this from the ground. This is likely to make my water problems much more frequent, adversely affect my day-to-day life, and reduce the value of my property. Short-term tenants have no reason to care about adjacent long-term property owners. They're short-term tenants. It's a business. There will be no on-site or even nearby management. In lots of jurisdictions, the law or the rules are such that you can have short-term rental, but only if you have an on-site manager. That's not what's going on here. These are all strangers by themselves. And from the landlord's perspective, the ideal short-term tenant would be a single group of 12 people who want to rent all 3 houses together. When this occurs, it's likely to be party time. Maybe not often, but sometimes. And no matter what the contracts say, not everybody obeys the rules. So even if you put in a no events clause in the special use permit, and even if Mr. Graff, who is a very nice guy, by the way, puts in his contract a no party clause, there's no enforcement mechanism. That's just going to happen. I wasn't born this age. I know what it was like to be 22 years old, and I suspect you do too. So please ask yourself if you would like to have 3 short-term rental units right next to you, and then treat me the same way that you would want to be treated if you were in my situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this case? Yes, sir. Yeah, sure.
You mind talking to the...
Yeah.
So there is...
Would you at least grab the mic? Yeah, thanks.
So there's a slight error on this that I saw. So the homes will not contain 1,700 square feet. That's the exterior of the home. So if you look at the floor plans, the actual size of the bedroom is the length of this table, and probably the width to the wall. So these are very small bedrooms. So I guess in regards to sound, it's more likely that a large house housing, 6 beds, 12 people in that home would be, a more likely situation that you would have loud noise. These homes are built specifically for getaways, couples, 2 individuals, 4 individuals to go and enjoy the natural, beautiful scenery that, disappear within Madison, these invisible homes. The idea is not to go and party and to celebrate. I do appreciate that concern, but just the structure of these homes, they're tiny. These are little homes, so that's all. Thank you.
Okay, so the 1,700 square feet is including the deck areas then?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's the entire external
Right,
structure.
yes.
The actual bedrooms,
Yeah, you
like I
can,
said, I think the length is 20 feet and the width is, this is 11 feet maybe, so, it's a tight squeeze in these. I've actually stayed in one of them. They have them in North Carolina, they're in California, they're in Tennessee as well, so they're picking up steam, but they're a pretty narrow squeeze in there.
Are they prefab?
Yes, sir, they are prefab. So the idea would be the structure will be built, and then the homes will be the bedrooms, will be delivered, and the studies will be delivered, and they'll be placed in there. So the entire foundation of the home is going to be built on site, and then everything is kind of delivered by a crane, dropped on there, and that's how the final structure is built.
So the plans kind of show them as, I'm from Virginia Beach, so we have pilings.
Yeah.
Your plan kind of shows that might be on pilings. I don't see that here, but how is that going to be built?
So the upper level studies will be on pilings to get elevation.
Like wood piles or
Steel piles, steel metal poles. The ground floor, similar, but I mean, it's maybe a 2-foot elevation off the ground, so I'd say the upper study is the one that probably looks more similar to what you see in Virginia Beach.
yeah. The central unit, would you describe that, roughly the size and the organization of that? You showed.
The central unit is 2 bedrooms. It will be delivered and placed on top of each other.
Oh, okay, so
To create a 2-bedroom structure.
The outlying units are
Studies.
studies.
So and they will all be delivered. So if you take the studies and the deck, the length and width of those, you're looking at 1,700 square feet. If you take each bedroom separately, you're looking at the area that all you gentlemen and ladies are currently sitting.
Okay,
What exactly is the study?
So a study is meant, because these are such tight squeezes, the idea is you don't want to be claustrophobic when you get there, right? So the study is really just to have another place and go and read and relax. It's really just another...
Private space.
Private space, exactly. I am aware of the Wi-Fi, the lack of Wi-Fi, the lack of cell phone reception, so calling it an office is, probably a misrepresentation, but it's more of a study, a place to get out of your bedroom, be able to, spend time somewhere else.
Okay, so your utilities would be in that central unit, and basically these are just single rooms on the outliers, the studies.
Exactly, and the studies will not have beds. There'll be very strict rules on 12 guests, total, and I couldn't imagine if you look at the dimensions of the study. I mean, they're even smaller than the bedroom. I couldn't imagine someone even wanting to pay you to sleep in there. So,
Any other question?
I've got one for Ligon.
Yes.
So being that these things are grouped the way that they're grouped, is this going to pretty much dedicate this 11 acres to these 3 without any division?
That's right, the way they're grouped, I mean, that's a good point. We want to meet the subdivision regulations, and we talked about that from the get-go. And I've talked to Jamie about the prefab. I mean, it'll have to have a Virginia stamped architect engineer, which it will. So we've had conversations with Mr. Graff about it, and so we're all on the same page.
But even if he decided to later, it doesn't look like it would be able to be done.
No.
Or would want to, rather.
Right. And, the property's steep once you get to that back, so it's, right.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. If you would come back up to the mic.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out the obvious. The size of the bedrooms have absolutely nothing to do with any of the complaints and concerns that I have. Nothing whatsoever to do with the party problem, nothing whatsoever to do with the water problem, nothing whatsoever to do with the subdivision problem, nothing at all to do with it.
Thank you. Yes, Nathan.
Mr. Graff, you bought the land. I respect your rights to use it to your benefit, with certain respect due to neighbors, obviously, or other people within the county. The whole parcel kind of says to me it probably should have been C1. It's kind of weird that it's A1, just the way it sits, and if you look at the statement of intent for C1, but
Well, it looks like this is perhaps maybe down almost, not flat. There's nothing flat in Madison, but it's not steep terrain, it looks like. Is that true?
It gets very steep, so I have on one of those pages, I have the elevation where, I've included the elevation of each home. So on, I believe it's the glare page, the page that addresses the issue of glare. I've identified, yes, sir, I've identified the elevation for each home. So there's quite a slope, especially as you move up towards Redgate Road. And I kind of addressed it on that page as well. From when you're at the top of the mountain on Redgate Road, you're at about a 70-foot elevation above the third home. So,
Is this it right here?
That's right.
And on the print, it didn't, for some reason, it doesn't print out properly, but here it is, right?
Yeah. So Nathan's point is well taken. That is steep terrain, which is normally is what C1 is in Madison, so.
So just in regard, but, I mean, zoning is what it is. Like I said, I do respect your rights, certainly. I just, it's a lot. It's not too much. You could divide it into 3 lots, presumably by right. I don't know if it's eligible for a subdivision or not.
I mean, you can look behind it. There's, I mean, this was done before zoning, but, I mean, in theory, you could divide it 3 times, and, I mean, it would take a lot of earthwork and, to divide this 3 times, but it could be done.
So, yeah, that's it.
Any other questions?
Danny.
Yes, Danny?
On your foundations that are going to hold these modular homes, are they going to be engineered foundations?
Absolutely. So I will need a structured engineer license in the state of Virginia, correct, in order to proceed with the foundation, and then I'll need a stamp of approval from someone from Virginia, licensed in Virginia as well, for the actual construction of the bedrooms.
On you addressing this gentleman's water issue, are you planning on 3 separate wells, 1 well that's a community well, or how are you proposing to achieve this?
It will be 1 well.
1 well?
Yes, sir.
With a holding tank?
That's correct. And that well, the previous owner of the property mapped out already exactly where the well would go, where the drain field would go. I'm following his lead of exactly where he was planning on placing his previous well.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the Planning Commission? All right, very good. Next case is case number SP-03-23-03. Roger Scott and Amanda Weekly Scott have submitted a site plan to construct a poultry house facility on a 99.8 acre A1 zone parcel which they own. In the A1 zoning district, a poultry facility is a by right use. Madison County Site Plan Ordinance requires site plans for developments with a land disturbance area of 40,000 square feet or more be submitted to the Planning Commission for review and the Board of Supervisors for approval. The subject site plan shows an additional one poultry facility measuring 63 feet by 804 feet being constructed with a total land disturbance of 6.25 acres. The applicant has submitted a stormwater management plan to the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality, and approval is pending. The subject parcel contains two existing poultry houses or facilities with a postal address of 2494 Locust Grove Church Road, Route 616. The parcel is also identified on Madison County's tax map as 57-53. Liam, anything to add on that?
Yeah, I think the only question that was brought up last time, Mr. Carpenter, was about the litter management plan. I think I'm saying that right. Poultry, what do they call it? Nutrient. Sorry. Mr. Scott can talk to that. They have an amended plan, I believe, going for DEQ. I might have said DCR, but I meant DEQ. What's really amazing about this is, I rode back there, you can see the pictures, is how this is such a wooded lot. You do not realize anything's back there, and these buildings are obviously quite large. And you can see the area right here where the new one would go. Still waiting on DEQ. That might come for the first, it might not. It's surely it could be approved with that pending. No building permit would be issued, but otherwise, I think everything looks like it's in order.
Okay, yeah, and I can vouch for that. I've lived in the area within a few miles for about 50 years, and I didn't know it was there. So, any question for Ligon?
I just have a comment, Steve, and I have a really close friend that has a piece of property that adjoins this, and they said you don't even know it's there, you don't see it, you don't smell it, you don't even know it exists.
Right, and were you mentioning the last time about the litter disposal or the food?
I was asking about the nutrient management plan.
Okay.
That's something that's required in the county ordinances. So.
Well, where we had very visible businesses that were not automated 100 years ago, that's now flat, thank goodness. I'm very happy about that. Back then, we got delivered the feed, we didn't do any of that. They want to maximize what those birds can do, and they make sure that you do it. And they're inspecting. They come in to check every now and then. If they don't get what they want out of it, it doesn't work for you. I think they're with Cargill. Yes, ma'am. And we were with the very small one. We still had that to go through. Yep. We never had any worries on that. They knew when our birds were sick, if they ever were sick, whatever. Thank goodness didn't go through that much either, but it's very, very strictly controlled, I would say, by the people putting the money in on the other end.
Roger has an advantage. He has a vet to take care of his turkeys.
I did want to ask, it says poultry, turkeys?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other question for Ligon before we attack the applicant?
I've got a comment.
Yes, okay.
I live on Route 616, but I live on Good Hope Church Road.
Yeah.
And I have seen one load of turkeys go out by me. So I don't know how many ships of out or what, but I've only seen one. So as far as traffic's concerned, I would say there is no issue with traffic.
They come at night.
I just look at this drawing, and I'm sorry that you've had to go through what you've had to go through with DDQ. It's a shame, but
it's a shame.
It's a life we live in.
It's a shame. I know I drove by there, saw nothing, gates, nope, couldn't see it.
Yeah. Any other questions for Ligon?
The road.
No.
All right. Does anyone have a question for the applicant? Okay, what I'd asked Ligon about last time was, in our ordinance, there's a section about the intensive poultry houses, and it asked for that the county has to have the nutrient management plan, at least we need to see some kind of like a letter saying that's been approved or something like that, Since you've already got 2 houses there, I assume you already have such a thing. And I was just asking if he would have a copy of that letter or something like that so that we could know that we were abiding by that. Just like when we have a lot, we get VDOT to approve an entrance and subdivision, we have Health Department approval for drain fields and things like that. So, do you have can you provide in a packet for next time a letter for that?
Absolutely. So I'm Amanda Weekly, a Madison County native, or Weekly Scott, I'm a Madison County native and also a livestock veterinarian. And we have been in operation since 2016. We placed birds in September 2016. Our nutrient management plan started in May of 2016. Going above and beyond, like Ms. Oots mentioned, we have to have our nutrient management plans approved by DCR and DEQ as well. And so that abides with our Virginia pollution abatement permit that we also must hold. We have maintained those through the continuity of having one barn in 2016, adding a second barn in 2019, and then we'll also have that revised to add in the third poultry house. Currently, Robert Shoemaker is our nutrient management planner, and I would be more than happy to email over our nutrient management plans.
Excellent. I would just like to have that in the packet. Yeah. Does anyone else have a question for the applicants? Actually, I do. When do you ship turkeys? Is it midnight or what? Because I've never seen them.
Yeah, majority of the time they're shipped during the night.
They are,
That
okay.
way they're at the plant for the workers in the morning.
Yeah. That might explain it, yeah.
Steve.
Yeah.
Young lady.
So, any other question before we go to the public comment? Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Y'all do.
Would you go up and introduce yourself, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Alma Brown, and I am a resident right across from the turkey farm. I'm after the driveway, the entrance. So I get a lot of, you say you didn't have no smell, you don't smell anything. No, there's certain times when there's smells. And I can't even come outside and enjoy a cold beverage on my deck. And I've been there 5 years. So all that has changed. I can't raise my window at night thinking I'm gonna get the cool breeze and cut my air conditioner off because the smell. Because you all might have cleaned out the house, the little houses or whatever y'all got back there. Actually, as a resident, we were never asked to take a tour of the place and see what the place looked like. And for the turkeys to come into my community, but you say you're my neighbor, but you live in Brightwood. I don't have no neighbors in Brightwood, but I have my neighbors in the Radiant area, Rhoda area. But you don't endure the smell. And that's what really bothered me because I am an outside person. And now, since they've been here, I can't enjoy my property. People come to visit. They hate to get out the car. What is that smell? Y'all might as well come on in the house. Because it's like, it stays. It's like a bad fart that won't leave you. You know, you try to run away from it, and it just sticks with you. That's what it's like until the next day or two. So I appreciate y'all got that, the two you got. I don't think you need any more until you address the smell, because it has changed my life. Where I'm in the house now. I'm not an in-body, I'm an outside person. I like to be out in the yard, I like to enjoy myself. But y'all gotta do better. Y'all gotta find some kind of way to control that smell. Because y'all ain't enjoying that smell. Because you live in Brightwood.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Would you take a question from a commission member?
So, when do you smell this? Is this just when the wind blows a certain direction every night at 9 o'clock?
The wind ain't gotta be blowing whenever they clean that place out.
Uh-huh.
And the trees have grown up more. You think it would kind of put it at bay? I wish I could capture it in a box and sit it right there and let you know. Because I was already there. The turkeys came. You see what I'm saying? And we tried to express this before when it first started. But apparently the petition we had signed by everybody around in the neighborhood, it didn't work.
Yeah, well, this is it's a by right on agricultural land for them to be able to do this, so
I
that's.
understand that, but see, when we wanted to meet again with them, we thought we would be able to get a tour of the place, number one, just to see how the turkeys are being treated inside the place, because we don't hear them. But when the trucks are being loaded, we hear the cages flood. But whenever they clean out the manure or whatever like that, it stinks. You know, it ain't like you smell it and the wind blows and blows. It's not that kind of.
Okay.
I don't know how long it's been or whatever, but if they can improve that some kind of way, might be able to survive.
Thank you, ma'am, then.
Thank you.
Any other public comment while we're, okay?
I did want to real quick
Yes.
address Ms. Alma's comments. So we are in the very early stages of what was originally on our 5-year plan, now our 10-year plan, to survey off 6 acres of our parcel and then build our home there. It is our family farm. We want to raise our family there. And as far as the smell goes, I do wash my husband's laundry and I go in the house myself, so I am very well aware of what it smells like inside.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a question.
Yes, question.
If you don't mind. So, how often do you clean? If this is what she's smelling, how often do y'all?
3 times a year in the cleanout process. We spend a week washing down and then a week for litter removal. And it goes in a machine inside the barn, carried outside, and is put into another barn, litter storage facility.
So theoretically, she should only be smelling this 3 times a year then?
Correct.
Somebody give me their number. I'll call you every time I smell it.
Okay.
Tell you to come and take a look.
Roger, what do you do with the litter?
We store it in the litter storage barn, and then we either take it away and spread it on our own farm ground. We rent about 1,500 acres, and we sell some of it too, and it's all spread on properties with nutrient management plans.
Same thing the dairy farms do with theirs.
Yes.
You use it as fertilizer.
Yes.
Absolutely. And there's certain times of the year that you're not allowed to spread, and that's when it has to be stored in that litter storage facility.
Okay, any other questions for the applicant? Is there any other public comment before we leave this? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, that brings us to, I guess, our last case number RZ-04-23-5. Blue Ridge Ag LLC, Mr. Josh Hagee, is that correct?
Nailed it.
Has applied to rezone a roughly 8.9 acre portion of a 13.3 acre parcel from R1 Limited Residential to B1 General Business with conditions. If rezoned, the 8.9 acre B1 portion of the parcel would be utilized for a retail agricultural supply business specializing in small-scale homestead agricultural products, with the majority of inventory being sold via online sales. The property would be improved by a single structure not to exceed 15,000 square feet in total floor area. The applicant has submitted a visual/map showing the proposed area to be rezoned. The subject parcel does not contain a postal address. but is located on North Seminole Trail, Brightwood, Virginia, and is identified on Madison County's tax maps as 32-102. All right, Ligon?
Yeah, I think the ad covers a lot. I'll let Mr. Heggie talk a little bit about his business. You can see the area. He has met with VDOT out there. There is an entrance, if you look right there, I believe that's it, right there. They're okay. We'll get that in writing with a low-volume commercial. It's not, I mean, people can stop by the business, but it's really, again, just probably some trucks in or out, deliveries, should not exceed that 50 trips a day. I'm trying to think, and you can see the kind of there's a power line right through here that would be sort of the delineation between the R1 and the B1. We put 15,000 square feet just in case. I've learned in this business that sometimes plans change a little bit, but really he's probably looking more like a 10,000 square feet building. So he can tell you a little bit about the business, maybe a number of people who might be employed there. Any other questions for me, or?
I'm just kind of curious. It looks like this would isolate that back triangle with no access to any road. Is that?
Well, it would still have access from the main road that's on access 29. So a driveway could go back and access that as well, that back portion.
But it would have to go through the rezoned area if that was.
That's correct.
Okay.
Is this where I've seen the kind of a new driveway put down through there off of 29? I've seen some crushed concrete put down as an access.
Yes, it was an existing driveway that was improved. We came down very steep.
Yeah, would you go ahead and identify yourself?
Sure, yeah, sorry. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joshua Heggie, or Josh Heggie here. Operate a small backyard dairy business, homestead dairy business in Greene County. Started it in my teens, and currently I'm married and have 3 little girls, and operated out of our basement in a shed in the backyard. Getting to the point where we need a little more than the basement and shed in the backyard of an 1.75 acre lot. So my hope and our dream is to continue working toward having a suitably zoned business lot with a neighboring, that residential triangle there, have a place to live right next to it. Would be our dream for some time in the future. To build there and be able to still have a home business right next to it. So the business itself is homestead dairy. So a homestead is, of course, something that provides food for usually only the household. So 1 cow, a couple goats, people who have a backyard dairy, basically. So we sell all the little stainless steel buckets and milk cans and strainers and milkers, milk bottles that you'll need to have a little backyard dairy. I got into the business by accident when I was milking my parents' cow. There just wasn't anything available to buy. And here we are today. So I'd love to be able to set up the business there in Brightwood. Open to any questions you have.
So what are we running out of there now?
Right now, out of the...
We got a lot of Connex boxes there
Yeah,
and a
yeah.
lot going on, and I'm just curious, what are we doing now?
Yeah, I came down off the driveway and I'm attempting to clear a 40,000 square foot, what is that, 9/10 of an acre, something like that, a lot there. I have a trailer that I can move I need a little more storage than what I have in my basement. So I'm putting my excess inventory into a container, bringing it up to Brightwood, sliding off a full one, an empty one, shuffle stock back and forth that way.
So you're using a lot already for
Yes,
business?
sir. Essentially, yes, sir.
Does so what about an access off of 29? You've checked with VDOT on that you're going to have to do something?
Sure. That was from what I understand back in the day when they put 29 through, this is what I was told, VDOT would have put a little entrance in there to serve that lot. So it's that entrance.
I mean, a turnout lane or turn-in lane?
Commercial, apparently they wouldn't need a deceleration lane for
Low-volume commercial is what they've recommended.
Yeah.
I mean, you did meet out there with Wilt.
Yeah,
You're
Willis
right.
came and
Mhm.
checked it out.
And we'll get that in writing.
So you're not planning on having a retail store there?
I don't have plans for that. I don't know what the future holds, but my need is storage. And our sales are online.
And the reason I ask, I would imagine if you do have a retail store, VDOT's gonna require a decel lane and a turn lane.
Okay. Faye, you had a question?
Yes. Just for clarity, you're storing things there, but you're not selling out of there.
That is correct.
So
No,
it's
I'm
not really
selling. I mean,
a store.
honestly.
I mean, if you pick up something there and take it somewhere else, it's
Yeah.
not selling it on that property.
Right.
You don't have people coming there picking up stuff.
That is correct. No, correct.
Just clarifying.
To be honest, to answer Pete's question, I mean, I'm thinking back, I don't know if I have something in 2 or 3 of those containers. I've got a big lot of cheap containers that I need to place to the store. That's what it is, actually. There might be 2 or 3 of them with something in it.
So this is primarily an online business, and this is a warehouse and shipping facility.
Exactly. It's a website. We sell on a website and Amazon.
I'll just say again, like I respect, people's right to use land for their livelihood. Same, I mean, everybody in here is kind of trying to do the same thing, just going about it different ways. But I mean, by right, any developer in the Tri-County area could have bought and slapped 6 houses back in there. I'd much rather see you and your family down there. So, good for you.
Any other question? Okay, any public comment then? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, here's a portion of it. We did have one more we can look at, just.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I think that we decided that would be the additional items then, so if
That's
you would
correct.
introduce that.
So, Mr. Al Esch, he can talk to you a little bit about it. This is a property, it's right here, and it hasn't been subdivided in a long time, but there's also a piece right here that is associated with, it's a different owner right here, is that right, Al?
Well, that turned now into a 30-foot non-exclusive right-of-way. They combined those pieces to make that right-of-way. It's not actually a separate deed.
Okay. So this right-of-way serves right here off of Ridgeview Road. Does it currently serve this part? This is the subject parcel the state's considering subdividing?
Yeah, correct. So
Does it serve this parcel now?
it does. O.F. Carpenter has owned that piece that your cursor is on right now for almost 100 years. And it used to be a real small driveway, went all the way back there to where Blackie and some of those live in the back. And over the years, as they used it more, Mr. Jordan would say that he gave them more land. I think when we look back in the deeds, I think it was 10 to begin with, and then they added 20 more to make it a 30-foot non-exclusive, with the agreement that Mr. Jordan could, at any point, access that property with a culvert, and as long as it was done decently. And I would like to purchase that property from Mr. Jordan and the Carpenter family, and by right it could be divided into 4 parcels, which would be 3 acres and a 4. an 8-acre piece, 17 acres altogether. But there's some question about how many houses are actually on Old Home Place Lane. And I'd like to try to figure out a way without putting another right-of-way in there and have 3 of them there in a row, that I would be able to purchase that and make that division.
So this right here goes through, and there's another access, if you're up here, there's another access here, but it's not utilized by this property, it appears. So.
It comes from 231.
So we got 1, 2, 3, and this could be 3, and you would have 6. Well, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You got the other one over there.
Four, right. So, I mean, he could just put an entrance right here, but to me, it seems a little, I guess, silly. Is the word I'm looking for, that he just puts another entrance here, and there's a really good entrance that could be shared here, and he could still have his 4. I guess in theory would be 8 on that, but from a planning perspective, I had to look at the code a little more to see what provisions. So, I mean, like I said, he could put another entrance in, but it just, for practicality and even safety, it just would seem, it would just seem more logical.
By 1, I believe, is what it would be. Yeah. So that was, before I bought the piece, I wanted to get a, feel for where it would put me.
It puts you over the limit. Right.
Is there any rule? Is there what can be done?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Y'all did it.
I mean.
Yes, we did.
Just went through the debate on this.
Not the committee.
So there's.
We all know what the rules say, but I kind of agree a little bit with what Ligon says, putting another road right beside a road to be able to accomplish the same thing. It really don't make a lot of sense, but.
Right, part of the intent was to increase it to reduce roads coming out, private drives coming out on.
It literally goes all the way across the side of the property. I mean, the whole way down.
And as it stands now, there are already
he's just
3
planning on doing
existing
3
homes on that.
And the residual.
There are already 3 existing houses on that.
Well, it's tax
He's
map
gonna do
numbers.
3.
There's at least 3 different tax
He wants to make it
parcels.
larger
Now,
lots.
some of them are, you can reach from 231 as well, so I don't know. It's debatable to say, well, does it take the Old Home Place Lane? I just didn't want to go buy it and then be like, well, I come up here to make a division, and it's like, oh, no, you can't do that, and then I'm stuck.
What's that?
So I wanted to just.
Yeah.
A question is, if those other properties could be accessed off of 230.
Well, it's Wilderness Road, my
Well, it's Wilderness Road, but if they could be accessed off of 230, you're not denying those people to have a right-of-way. So if he got there before those people got there and built a house before those people got there, what are we doing wrong, or are we doing anything wrong?
So
that's up to Sean, I guess.
These 3 existing. The 3
Where you going, Sean?
The 3 existing ones are actually served by this lane, or are they not served by this lane? Do they actually have?
That's what I was wondering, if they're not.
Do they have another driveway coming to them?
They do from Wilderness Road. If you take those 2 little boxes away there, you can see where a couple of those tax map numbers have access to Wilderness Road. But they have access from this side as well.
Well, the question is, which one is, are they using the access from the old Homestead Lane?
I don't know.
So
it's 70.
I think that's what needs to be determined.
Well, there are a couple of questions, one of which is largely procedural. The Planning Commission does not have the authority to issue advisory opinions to landowners, first of all. As to the larger point in terms of the fact that the Board of Supervisors restricted it to 6 houses per road.
Per private road.
That is a decision they made, and that's the rule. With regard to the issue as to forcing somebody to use a different road, that's impeding on people's property rights who are not currently before this board. So I would be very nervous about doing that, because if you're not careful, you're going to find that each of the property owners there is going to want the ability to basically take the position, well, I've got 2 roads, so that means that rather than it being 6 on the private road, we're entitled to 12 on the private road. So there are lots of questions here that require, a lot more study than at the end of a workshop meeting. I think probably the better way to do it would be to submit the application prior to purchasing the property and letting it go through the process. One of the things that really concerns me is this board making decisions tonight with very little information and with no notice to the neighbors, and then being held to that later whenever they have different facts that might change their opinion.
I was just getting ready to make the same comment that I wasn't going to comment on
I'm
this.
sorry, I meant to just let Mike Snyder say everything I just
There you go. I see no information on this at all, so I wasn't going to make it.
When I write it, it will be exactly what I just told you. So, I mean, it's not going to change. I mean, I guess the easiest thing is just say build a road, and that's what you have to do.
I can understand why he's asking ahead of time.
Yeah, we're just talking.
And I think that's fair, but the better way to do it is prospectively ask for, the clarification on that point prior to purchasing the property. We've had lots of people come before the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors in advance to actually purchasing the property.
Yeah, would it, if you, in your preparation for purchasing the property, have you established the actual documentation of that right-of-way?
Yes, sir.
And who has, in their deeds, has that right-of-way written in?
Yes, sir.
And so those 3 existing houses have that right-of-way written into their...
Yes, sir, including that property.
No. All right, the 3 existing ones plus the piece that's beside.
Correct.
Okay.
It would also
So
be
it would
good
be
to know
7.
if the 3 existing ones have driveways already installed, where they exit to.
Now, how was that, Danny?
If the 3, you said there are 3 existing lots. If they have driveways already on them, and where do those driveway exit to? Which road?
They all come out here.
They all come out on this?
Blackie and all them come out.
On the right of way,
ridge
on the
here.
right of way, so there's already 3 houses on it.
And then, yeah, that's pretty firmly established then.
Yeah.
There would be 7.
Okay.
Better if I didn't speak probably right now.
Could he put 3 off of that road and then bring one off of one entrance
That's
off
what I
of
was going to say.
Ridgeview?
That's exactly what I was going to say.
See, that's the advice we're not supposed to give.
Again, that's advisory opinion.
That's just my opinion, Sean.
But understand that you're speaking as a member of the Planning Commission.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, a conversation you have in the hallway might be a little
Okay, no problem.
different.
You have to carry on from there without any advice.
Sure.
Okay. All right, is there anything else, Ligon, that was the...
No, thanks, like I said, just, one of those little things that come up, but, no, but that's it.
Okay, I assume we will, if he wants to follow through, we will see this.
Yep, maybe a few months.
Yep, okay. Any other additional items from the Planning Commission or from the public? Or from our liaisons?
I don't have anything to say.
Okay.
What? Well, you live in Etlin, you have nothing to say.
In that case, can we have a motion for adjournment real quickly?
So moved.
Moved, any second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
You do have opinions. Huh? You do have opinions.
We all have opinions, yes.
I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
Like I said, type A personality.
Hey, Cardi. I've got some women up here. Yep, looks like it's working. Oh, and I started to send you an email. I think you've done remarkably well with that somewhat opinionated group with the comp plan review. I think we've got a good start on that vision statement. Yeah.
Ain't good.
I got to work. Well, hell, we had 8 on there.
Steve, good job. I know everybody wanted to talk at one time, but you did a good job. I guess what you should ask.